So in this question, what we are looking at is we are trying to figure out worry about getting all of our different letters in, just so that everyone can get an idea. First thing is that this line over here is a straight line. And as soon as we have a straight line, we know that everything's going to be 180 degrees. So if we add all of those together, we're going to get 180 degrees. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say x plus 160 minus 2x plus 20 needs to equal 180. And my reason is going to be angles on a straight line. Okay. Then over here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to add my like terms. So I've got x plus x minus 2x. So then something's gone funny. Those cancel each other out. Hold on. Let me find you. And Nico, I'm just going to unmute you again for a second. If you can just accept that unmuting on your side. Have I missed something in this question? Are these these?
It's exactly the same, ma'am.
So is x and 160 minus 2x and 20?
Yes, ma'am.
And they in the question did they ask you to find x?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then it's not possible. I don't know how else to say that to you. I'm sorry, Lilico, because the x's are going to cancel each other out. So we're just going to be left with 180 is equal to 180. So it won't be possible for us to work out what x is.
Are we sure that those, sorry to disturb, but are we sure that those two angles there are x and x? Where would we show?
Are these definitely x and x? Is there nothing else there? Is there not like a 2x or a 3x or a...
No, ma'am, it's just x and x.
That's so weird. Could be a typo on the question paper.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, Julian. I think there's a typo on the question paper.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
But it's good that you couldn't work it out. That's a good thing because you can't. So take it as a win. Okay. All right, guys, let's jump into some equations. And then we can go from there. We're going to kind of jump all over the place with equations today. So there's going to be some which are exponential, some which are fractions, some which are quadratic. And we're going to chat about if you were in an exam or a test, what you would do when you saw the different questions. Yes, Unati, we can quickly deal with that question and then we can pop back in here. You got a question of 4n squared minus 4w. Does the question ask you to factorize that? Is that what they asked you in the question? Or what did they ask you to do there? Yeah, factorize. Okay, so if we're trying to factorize this, the only thing we would be able to do is take out our highest common factor. And we haven't got anything common with our variables. So the only thing we could take out is a 4, and we would be left with n squared minus w. And that's where our answer would have to end. If the question looked like this, though, so if they had 4n squared minus 4w squared, for example, then we could first take out our 4, and then we could do difference of 2 squares. But if there isn't that square, then our answer would have to stay as it is on the left. You're welcome. Okay, let's get going. So let's have a look at this one. This is as easy as an equation can get. My first question to you is, what type of equation is this? So what I mean by that is it linear? Is it quadratic? Is it exponential? And if you don't know what any of these are, you just need to ask me. Is it a fraction? Those are the 4 that we're going to sort of focus on mainly at the moment. What type of equation of these 4 is the one that you can see on the board right now? And if there's any that you don't understand, just ask me and we can talk about it. The second one. Okay, so you're going to go with quadratic. Okay. What do other people say? Which one do you think you're going to go through? Remember, it doesn't matter if you have the wrong answer. We're going to talk about them all anyway. Okay, Tristan's agreeing. Shizzy was saying exponential. Okay. That's okay, Chakundi. We're going to talk about them all now. Okay. So although these words may make it seem like we're making it more complicated, if we know what type of equation we're doing, it makes it easier for us to know how to solve it. Okay, so there's a couple important things here. A linear equation is when we have a variable that only has an exponent of 1. So do you see here how this x is just an x? It's not an x squared. That means that this is a linear equation. So if we just have like an x, then it means it's linear. Okay, the reason it's linear is because it forms a straight line if we had to draw it. When we get to a quadratic equation, it's going to be squared. So we would have an x squared involved somewhere. If it's exponential, we'll have a number that's to the power of x. And if it's a fraction, then we would obviously have something going on as a fraction. So something like that. Okay, so those are what our 4 different sort of things to look out for would be. And when we're in these different things, we have to do different things. So when we're dealing with a linear equation, like we are in this question over here, for a linear equation, we want to move our x's to one side and our numbers to the other side. So when we're dealing with a linear, so that's when we just have like an x, okay? We want to move x's to one side and numbers to the other. All right. So if we have a look at this equation, we've got this 3x over here. We're going to keep that on the left, okay? And this, we are going to move over to the right. And when it jumps over the equal sign, its sign is going to change. So that is going to be equal to 4 plus 2. So what we're doing is we're putting our x's on the one side and we're putting our numbers on the other side. Then we're just going to add those together. So we're going to get 3x is equal to 6. And whenever we get to this point over here, we're trying to isolate x. So we're going to divide by the coefficient. So we're going to divide by 3 over there. We're going to divide by 3 over there. And so our final answer is going to be 2. Okay, so that is what a linear equation looks like. Does anyone have any questions about the definitions that I've spoken about on the right, or anything that you don't understand about what I've just done with this equation? This is your time to ask. All good? Let's have a look through these messages. Okay. Thanks, Lana Level. All right, so that is a linear equation. I'm going to actually just pop another linear equation over here for you that I want you to solve now that we've just spoken about this. Okay, so I'm going to say 2x plus 4 is equal to 5x minus, let's make this one. Okay. All right. Please, can you solve that equation for me? This is a linear equation. We know it's linear because we only have x's. We don't have any x squareds. So solve this linear equation for me. So feel like whenever we change a number or anything from one side of the equal sign to the other side of the equal sign, we always do the inverse operation. So if we were timesing on the left, we divide on the right. If we are minusing on the left, we plus on the right. It's always going to be opposite of what's happening on the other side. You're most welcome. Okay, so give this one a try. And when you have an answer, post your answer in the chat for me so I know that you're done. And then we can start talking about how we would solve this. Remember, there's always different ways to go about it. So you must do the one that makes you comfortable. And then we can go from there. And if you're at a point where you are stuck or you don't know if your answer is wrong or whatever, just ask. Remember that we're here to help you.
Sorry, my load shedding just happened and I needed to sort data out.
No, it's okay. I think I'm getting load shedded at 6, so I might disappear on you as well at some point. So don't worry.
Okay.
Oh no! Now it says my power's only going off at midnight.
Yeah, they changed the stage. I'm
Okay.
shocked because that's what happened to me. They changed the stage and then suddenly I had load shedding.
Like,
while I
oh
have. Yeah.
no! Okay, Palesa has got us an answer. Do we agree? Do we disagree? Get your answers in that chat, guys. You think you're making silly mistakes? It's okay, Bruce. We'll talk about it. We'll see what you're doing. You got 1. Okay, that's okay. We'll see. Let's chat. So I want these two to be together on one side. And I want these two to be together on the other side. Okay, so there's my equal sign. So I'm going to write my 2x over here because that's not moving. And then we're going to move that 5x over. Now, at the moment, that 5x is positive. Okay, we know it's positive because there's no sign in front of it. That means it must be positive. So the opposite of being positive is negative. So we're going to say minus 5x. Now, on the right-hand side, so where our pink ones are, we're going to keep that minus 6. And we're going to move this one over. Now, we can see that that 4 is positive. So when it jumps over, it's going to become minus. We're going to have minus 4. All right. If you got to that step, that's great. That's a really good start. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to work with this. So we've got 2 minus 5, and that's going to give us negative 3. Okay. And that's going to equal negative 6 minus 4, which is going to give us negative 10. Now, what we need to do is we need to divide by our coefficient. I'm going to divide this side by negative 3. Be careful, negative 3. And this side by negative 3. So those two are going to cancel. And now we have to be very careful because a negative and a negative makes a positive, which means my answer is going to be positive 10 over 3. And that's where this one would end. Does that make a bit more sense, guys? It's okay. You understand? Good, good. Excellent. Great. Exactly. I agree, Palesa. Or sometimes you can repeat it in a different way without meaning to, and that's also okay if you learn from it. How do you find 3 in your fraction? Okay, so when you get to this point over here, so we're at this point over here, all right? This -3, that is my coefficient of x. If I want x to be alone, I have to divide both sides by that coefficient. So this step here where I'm dividing by -3, that's just so that I can get rid of that -3. That's its only purpose. So whatever that coefficient is, we would divide by that number, and we would divide it on both sides. Okay. Do you want to try one more linear one before we do something a little bit different? You can just let me know. You can say yes or no. Okay. Cool. Let's try one more
do
linear.
this, my babes. Y'all are doing great either way. Let's go.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay, here we go. Not too bad. I would like you to solve for x with this question, please. And when you have an answer, just pop it in the chat for me. Let's see who can get this one. Won't that be exciting? Just remember to go slow and steady. When we try and rush maths, that's when we make mistakes.
Let's go, my babes. Let's go. Y'all are doing great.
Kira, you're my other Cape Townian, I think. How weird has the weather been this week? I don't know what to do with it. Like either super hot, oh, it's raining, or it's like a storm. Now the sky looks angry again. Okay, we're getting some answers. Sure, the wind yesterday. It was crazy, Tristan. And then it just started raining. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look. So let's think about the things we want on the one side and the things we want on the other side. So we want to keep this one on the one side. We want to get that one onto the other side. Then we want to get this one, this, and this all together on the other side. So we start with our purples. I'm going to keep my -4x here. I'm going to move our 2x over. It's positive at the moment, so it's going to become negative. Now we're going to look at our pinks. I've got -7 over there. I'm going to move our 4 over. It is negative, so it's going to become positive. We're going to move our 3 over. It's positive, so it's going to become negative. All right. Now we've got -4 minus 2. That gives us -6. And then on this side, we've got -7 minus 3, which is -10, plus 4, which is -6. So we get to this point over here. Now we need to divide by the coefficient of x. So we are going to divide by -6, and we're going to divide by -6. Those cancel. So x is left with a negative and a negative, which is a positive, and 6 divided by 6, which is 1. Done, done, done. What is Nomaza telling me? Grahamstown. 5 minutes ago it was sunny, and now cold front is moving in. Sure. I know. So I went to Rhodes, Nomaza. So Grahamstown and we are friends, and that weather is on its own planet, especially in winter. Nolan Wabo, how can I help?
Hi, ma'am. I hope you're doing well.
Very well, thank you.
For this equation, I said 3 minus 4 plus 7 is equal to 2x plus 4x. And I got a positive, like when I solved it, and then I got 6 over 6 is equal to 6x over 6. And then I got the positive one that you just got.
So if you move things the other direction, you would have just had positive 6 is equal to 6x.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
that the same idea of what you're saying? Is that, yeah?
Yes.
So, and that's exactly the same. So if it was on, yeah, so it doesn't matter. If you moved your x's to the other side, that's 100% fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, let's try a different type of equation. This is not a nasty one. This is actually also a linear equation, even though it looks like it's a fraction equation. It is actually a linear equation. You can treat it like a fraction. There's very different ways you could do this question. So think about how you would like to work it out. And we can talk about the different ways we can solve this. It shouldn't be one which is too difficult. Because it's not a very long one, but when you have your answer, pop it in the chat for us. It's okay, that's why we're practicing. The practice will be good for you. Bruce, how can I help?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, the first side, x minus 3 over 4, ma'am, can we flip it around?
We can't flip it around.
Okay.
Happiness is definitely a hot drink on a cold day. Agreed. Okay, so think about the different ways you could go about this question. And then see if you can find my answer. And as soon as you have an answer, post it. Doesn't matter how wrong you think you are. It doesn't matter. Put that answer in the chat. It gives me an idea of where you are at, if you're finished. If you're embarrassed and you don't want to share it with everyone, you can just send it as a direct message. So not everyone has to see it. Just a way for me to know where you're at. Lots of different ways to go about this. If you're panicking with the fraction, it may help to think that you could put that over 1. That may help some of you. It may make it worse for some of you. And then tell me what we are at, what we're getting. It's okay, Bruce, don't panic. All right, let's give this one a try. I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing this. First way, I'm going to look over here. So we've got x minus 3 over 4 is equal to -2. Okay. At the moment, what does this mean when we have this line? Oh gosh, when we have this line like this and it's over 4, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to have it like that? Maths wise. If I had to sort of say that as a sentence, what does that mean? Divide, exactly, Tristan. Exactly, that's what that means. Okay. So if I wanted to write this in a different way, I could write this as x minus 3 divided by 4. That actually means exactly the same thing. I think you would all agree with me. It means exactly the same thing. It's just I'm not writing it as a fraction. I'm writing it in one single line, and I'm using divide. That's all that means. Okay. Now we've spoken, when we jump over the equal sign, we do the opposite operation or the inverse operation. Okay. So if I'm jumping over the equal sign, what is the opposite operation of a divide? What is the opposite operation of a divide? Multiply, exactly, good. So the reason I'm putting this in brackets is because if I don't put it in the brackets, it's going to be 3 divided by 4 and not everything on the top divided by 4. That's why I'm putting it in brackets. You don't actually need to write this step that I've put in there for you. I just want you to all be able to understand that it's a divide. That's the only reason I put it in. Okay. So when that divide jumps over, it's going to change to a multiply because that's the opposite. So I'm going to have this x minus 3. It's going to stay on the left. And then on the right, I'm going to say negative 2 times 4 because it has jumped over and it has changed its operation. It is doing the inverse operation. I'm going to keep this the same for the moment. So I'm going to say x minus 3, and that's going to equal to negative 2 times 4, which gives me negative 8. And now I just have to solve for x. So all I need to do at this point is move that negative 3 over. So I can say I've got x, oh gosh, is equal to negative 8 plus 3, which means x is equal to negative 5. So that is one way of doing a question like this. I'm going to show you a different way just now too. Yes, Unati, how can I help? You just need to unmute from your side. Okay, while that is going on, let me write the other way up here. Okay, our other way of looking at this is to, oh, hi.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Unati, how can I help?
Ma'am, I got another question. It says, find the value of z if, open bracket, s minus 4, close bracket,
wait.
is
Okay, so those questions, we're only going to do like different types of questions at the beginning of each lesson, just because like now we're deep into equations. But if you bring it to the beginning of our lesson on Tuesday, I'll happily go through it with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if we have a look at the other way of doing this question, we could do it as a fraction equation. Now, whenever we have a whole number like we have over here with this minus 2, we're allowed to put it over 1 because any number divided by 1 is itself. So we're not actually changing anything by doing that. Okay, and then what we can do is we can find the lowest common denominator. So in this case, our LCD is going to be 4. So we're going to multiply that by 4, which means we're going to multiply that by 4. Does that not look a little bit similar? And when we have a fraction equation, so all of this would be over 4. When we have an equation and it all has a common denominator, we are allowed to erase that common denominator. So then we just land up with x minus 3 is equal to negative 8, which means x is equal to negative 5. And that is how we would solve this. We will go to Brian just now. Does anyone have any questions about these two different ways of looking at these equations? This is your time to ask. If there's something on the board right now that you're not understanding, you don't know where it's come from, you don't know where the number is coming from, ask. Pop it either in the chat, you can send a direct message, you can put your hand up. We are happy to help you. Okay. All right, let's pop down to Brian, take a quick brain break, and then we'll carry on with some of these equations. We'll see where we get up to. Okay. I'm going to have to work this one out as well because I also have not done this one yet. So I'm going to be working out at the same time as you guys. I'm going to pop it on. It's one of those nice little maths puzzles. You've just got to figure out what your answer is. It's not a horrible one, I don't think. I'm hoping so. Let's see who can get there. See if you can get there before me, which is probably very likely, to be honest. Kira, my spam attack. Okay. Have an answer. Let's see. If anyone ends up getting the same answer as me. Come on, hello. This is Kira's vibe. Kira spams me with numbers. This is how we love each other. Oh, we're getting very different. Oh, lots of 18s and 19s.
Getting a very
Alyssa just coming in with the spamming as well.
There's a stick to one answer.
Exactly. Palesa is pulling a Kira. Okay. Shall we go through the answer? Okay, so our top ones, everyone should be able to tell me, what is our cloud with the lightning? 4. Okay. Good. Okay, so that means that this is 4 over here. Now over here, how many are there of them? Yeah, so that's 8. Okay, cool. What this actually is, guys, is a nice little equation. So after Kira asked me for these to be in her exam, and I said they're just equations, this is a perfect example. Instead of a cloud with a sun, I'm going to write it as an x. And so I'm going to have it as x plus x times 4 equals 50. And if I simplify that, I get x plus 4x equals 50, which means I get 5x equals 50, which means I get x is equal to 10. And so this one is 10 and this one is 10, which means this one is 10 and this one is 10. And then we say, okay, well, this is the rainbow times itself, plus 10 has to give us 35, which means that they each have to be 5, because 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 plus 10 is 35. And then there are 2 rainbows here, so that's 10. So it's going to be 8 times 10, which is 80, plus 10, which is 19. And that's our answer. Yes, I was right. Thank goodness. All right, let's jump into some more equations, guys. Let's see what we should dive into. I think since we just did a fraction equation, this one might be good for us to do. Okay, so start this one by thinking of this as 3/1. And another hint to start, as soon as you have more than one term in your numerators, put them in brackets. It will help you when you start multiplying. Okay, so what we're going to look for in this question, because it's a fraction equation, we are going to look for a lowest common denominator. Then we are going to drop the denominator. Okay, and denominator. Otherwise, it looks like a demon a little bit. And then we are going to simplify. That is what we are going to do with this question. Okay, so find an LCD, drop the denominator, simplify. LCD stands for lowest common denominator. I'll write it out here for you. You're most welcome. Just take it one step at a time, guys. First, just look for your LCD. Drop your denominator. Simplify, and in simplify, you're going to have to do some distribution. Get all your x's onto one side, all your numbers onto the other side, and solve for x. I'm going to give you guys 1 more minute, and then I will go through this question with you. And hopefully we can get through 1 more, and then we can do some more equations on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, we can do some geometry. And then that's the end of our grade 9 year together. Yeah, Tristan, we can swap that around. We can do geometry on Tuesday and some more equations on Thursday. Okay, all right, let's go. So our LCD in this question is going to be 12. which means we need to multiply that 3 by a 4. I'm going to put a 4 over there. We need to multiply that 4 by a 3. I'm going to put a 3 over there, and we need to multiply this 1 by 12. Okay, so what that looks like now is we're going to have 4, open bracket, x plus 2, minus 3, open bracket, 2x minus 4 equals 12 times 3. Now, all of that would be over denominator of 12. And so because it's the same, we're allowed to drop it. And we get to this point over here. And now we get to do some distribution. So we're going to take this 4 and we're going to multiply it in. We're going to take this negative 3 and multiply it in, and we're going to multiply those two together. So 4 times x is 4x, 4 times 2 is 8, negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x, negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12, 12 times 3 is 36. Who managed to get to this point over here with these numbers? Let me know. Who managed to get to that point? And if you didn't manage to get to that point, did you manage to get to the LCD? Tell me where you're at up to this point here before we move any further. Nice job, guys. Nice. Okay. Our next step is we want to get our x's onto one side and we want to get our numbers onto the other side. So we're going to keep this 4x minus the 3x, 6x, and then on the other side we have 36 minus 12 minus 8. Okay, so 4x minus 6x, that gives us negative 2x. And then on this side over here, we're going to have 24 minus 8, which is going to give us 16. We're going to divide both sides by negative 2. And so x is equal to negative 8. Who landed up getting to that final answer? Who got all the way to x is equal to negative 8? Nice. Nice job, Mabo. Good work. Just dominating these equations. Nice, Chikondi. Good job. Yes. Okay. If you've got any questions about what you're seeing, nice job, Bruce. Ask away, and then we'll have a look at another one now. Probably just one more for tonight. And then I'll see you guys on Tuesday, but you've got a quiz this evening. The quiz will be really good revision for those of you who haven't written exams, because there's lots of algebra in there. Okay. I need to do one of these ones. Okay. I just want us to do one of these because we haven't done one of these yet this evening together, and I just want us to do it before you leave. So I know will be writing your exam before I see you again, and so I just wanted to talk about it. So when we spoke about our different types of equations, remember I said that if we have an x squared, that x squared tells us that it is a quadratic equation. Okay, so now if it's a quadratic equation, we deal with it a little bit differently. If it's quadratic, we want everything on one side, and then we want to make it equal to 0. So we don't want to have our x's on one side and our numbers on the other side. We want everything on one side, and we want to make it equal to 0. And then what we are going to do is we're going to factorize. Okay. And we are always going to get 2, sometimes 3. If there's a cubed, we're going to get 2 answers for x. Okay. So when you see that x squared, you need to have a little like light that goes off in your brain that screams at you, this is a quadratic equation. And if it's a quadratic equation, we are going to follow these steps over here. Okay, the first step that we're going to do is we're going to move everything onto one side and we're going to make it equal to 0. So we're going to say 3x squared plus 6x, because remember when it moves over, its sign changes and it is equal to 0. So that is this first step over here. Now we're going to factorize. If I'm trying to factorize here, I'm going to have to take out a highest common factor. So I'm going to take out 3x and I'm going to be left with x plus 2 is equal to 0. That's my factorizing. Now I need to get 2 answers for x. So this is equal to 0 or this is equal to 0. And we're going to write that like that. We're going to say 3x is equal to 0 or x plus 2 is equal to 0. On the left, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So I can see x is equal to 0. On the right, I'm going to move that over. So x is equal to -2. And those would be my 2 answers for x. So this is how we deal with a quadratic question. Is there anything about this one that doesn't make sense to anyone? If there is, please can you let me know? And then I'm going to give you another one quite similar to this. Is there anything about this that doesn't make sense? Let me know. And then I'm going to pop one over here for you. So I would like you to solve for x with, so the 6x, when the 6x moved over, it just became positive 6x. That's all that happened. Okay, so I'd like you to solve for x. I'm going to say, okay. That's the whole question. So I want you to solve for x. Think about what you're seeing. You can see there's an x squared involved. That x squared is telling you that it is quadratic. Think about what we need to do if it's quadratic. Follow those 3 steps that we just spoke about. I'm going to give you a little bit of extra time. I know we're running very low on time, but I'm going to try and give you as much time as possible. And I'll quickly zoom through this question. And then I'll see you guys on Tuesday. And for those of you who are writing between now and Tuesday, I wish you the best of luck.
All the best, my peeps.
Okay, I'm going to give you guys 1 more minute. All right. So we can do the same thing. I'm going to move it to the left, but you can move it to the right. So I'm going to say 2x plus 8x squared is equal to 0. Okay, so that's this first step. Second step, I'm going to factorize. So I'm going to take out 2x. I'm going to be left with 1 plus 4x. Don't forget that 1. If you forget that 1, you're in trouble. That's equal to 0. That's factorizing. Now we find our 2 answers for x. So 2x equals 0 or 1 plus 4x equals 0. Okay, let's just zoom in here. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So x equals 0. I'm going to move that 1 over. Divide both sides by 4. So x equals -1/4. Those would be my two answers. So the 1 comes from factorizing. So remember, when we factorize, if we re-multiply it out, we have to get what we started. So if I don't have that 1 and I re-multiply that 2, and I'm just going to get 8x squared. But if I re-multiply this in, 2x times 1 gives me 2x. 2x times 4x gives me 8x squared. So if I don't have that 1, I don't get that original 2x from my original expression, which is why it's so important that we have it. Guys, I have to leave you to get to my other grade 9s. Please